Hello friends, and welcome to another reaction video. My name is Nate and I want to thank you for joining me today. Now, I am a huge history nut. Now, that doesn't mean I'm very knowledgeable in all things history, but I do love learning about history, finding out new things, new facts, learning as much as I can about history. And one of those topics has to do with the Berlin Wall. My mother-in-law a while ago bought me a book when we visited Berlin, and it was all about the Berlin Wall. It wasn't that big, but it was extremely interesting because a lot of what the book had, we didn't learn in school, like the actual reason why it was built, how it was built, the surprise of, West and East together. All of a sudden there's troops at the border between East and West Berlin, and nobody knew what was going on. All the trains shut down, people started freaking out, so I love learning those little nuances about history. And this video, albeit extremely old, this one was like 14 years ago, so I think they probably uploaded this to YouTube right after YouTube became YouTube. But it's called Walled In, the Inner German Border. It is by DW News, Deutsche Welle News. It is in English, which is good for me, but hopefully this will talk more about the wall, maybe why it's there, how it became there, and any other little history tidbits about the wall. I would, like I said, I love this sort of stuff. Hopefully you do too, so join me as we watch a little bit about the inner wall in Germany, and let's hop right into the video.
This border cuts Germany in two, separates East and West, communism and democracy, repression and freedom. Its sole purpose, to keep the people of communist East Germany from fleeing to freedom in the Federal Republic of Germany, the West.
That wall is huge. Just the thought of how long it took to build, obviously this isn't, the Berlin Wall that's actually separating East and West Berlin, but just, it's just mind-blowing.
Berlin has special status. In the middle of East Germany, the city is divided into 4 sectors at the end of World War II. In 1961, the western sectors are surrounded by a fortified border 155 kilometers long, the Wall. East Berlin in the early 80s. This street leads to West Berlin. Anyone entering this restricted security zone requires special permits, even visitors of the cemetery seen here on the left. It's been closed off since the wall was built. This is where the barriers marking the border begin. Going further means risking life and limb.
Literally, life and limb.
Behind what is known as the inner wall is a place an average East German citizen may never enter. A heavily guarded strip of borderland. This is what it looks like at the start of the 1980s. The fortifications are continually reinforced and expanded. The area along the restricted zone is patrolled not only by soldiers, but also by the East German police and other watchful agents. Preventing people from fleeing communist East Germany is an elaborate and expensive operation.
So even if you made it past that first wall there, then it looks like there's a barbed wire fence, and then an open area, and there were landmines in there, and then these barriers, like vehicle barriers, and then probably more landmines, and then a bigger wall on the outside. So It wasn't just a wall that you could just hop over and you're done and you're free. It's a double-walled system, and like they said, it kept being fortified. There were stages to the Berlin Wall, where it first started being just one, and then it would add another layer, and then another layer, and guard towers and patrols and lights, and so it was this massive undertaking just to keep people from leaving. It wasn't to keep people from getting in, it was to keep them from leaving. And I think the reason behind that was because their economy wasn't as strong on the east side as it was on the free west side. So a lot of people who lived in East Berlin worked outside of East and in the west. And Russia didn't want them, supporting the economy outside of East Berlin. So they decided, we'll keep everybody here, and walled them all in. And it's crazy to think that this went through the 80s and it was still like this. It's just insane.
2 soldiers guard a 200-meter stretch of border here. In total, there are 12,000 border troops posted in Berlin. The next obstacle is a signal fence. Touch it, and a silent alarm goes off.
So you're escaping. You made it over the first wall. You get to this fence. It looks like a barbed wire fence, like any other barbed wire fence you've come across. And you grab it and you try and squeeze through. Little do you know, you just sent a silent signal that looks like to the guard tower. And already, the first obstacle, you're caught.
Soldiers in the watchtowers can immediately see where the alarm has been triggered. The would-be escapee doesn't know it, but the guards are already aware of what is happening and where.
Too late.
The guards in the tower can alert other troops along the border and direct their operations. At night, the no man's land around the border is lit up bright as day. In the west, this area is known as the Death Strip, a place where East German border guards will shoot to kill as a last resort to prevent an escape. The Berlin Wall claims 136 lives.
Man. I believe, and they probably won't talk about, the deaths of the Berlin Wall, but if I remember correctly, in the book that I have on the Berlin Wall, I believe the first casualty was like a 70-year-old lady who was in like the second floor apartment or whatever, because a lot of times the wall would butt up against the wall of a building. So then it wasn't like the wall all the way down. It went to the edge of the building and then continued on the other side. So they used that building as part of the wall. In the beginning stages, people lived in that building. So if they could make it out of their window, they were immediately in West Berlin. And I think what had happened was this lady was trying to get out and she had jumped. I think they put like a bed mattress down because other people had done it and they were helping her. And she, it's not funny. She missed the mattress and she died. And I believe that was technically the first casualty of somebody trying to escape East Berlin into West Berlin. And then obviously after, numerous attempts of this, the East Germans decided, well, we're going to evacuate this building so nobody can live in these buildings, so they can't just jump out their window and be free.
The Church of Reconciliation is surrounded by the Death Strip. The wall separates the church from its parish, most of which lies in the west. In 1985, the East German regime demolishes the church.
It's terrible.
One possible reason is that it obstructs the guards' view of the border. Tank traps prevent escapees from breaking through, but also the guards. On the other side, a carpet of steel spikes, 14 centimeters long, seriously wounds anyone who steps on it. East German border guards call it asparagus board. Westerners nickname it Stalinrasen, or Stalin's lawn. The ground is smoothed regularly so that anyone trying to flee across it will leave a mark. And finally, the notorious Berlin Wall, 3 meters 60 tall, the last insurmountable barrier. The side of the wall facing West Berlin is still part of East Germany. Openings used by the guards to inspect the other side need 2 separate keys to unlock.
That I didn't realize. I didn't realize I had these little locked, passageways in the wall. Very interesting. I did not get taught that in school. I don't remember reading that in any book. And I didn't realize that the west side of the wall was actually still East Berlin. It makes sense they would have to inspect the entire wall because somebody on the west could be kind of chipping away at the wall, I guess. And if somebody made it this far, they could break through a little easier. So it makes sense, but I had no idea they had little trap doors with 2 separate keys that needed to be used to unlock it. That's interesting.
One person alone cannot open them. At strategic intersections, the East German regime leaves weak points in the reinforced concrete barrier, so its tanks can break through to the west in the event of a war. Nearly everyone in the world is familiar with this view of the wall, looking from the west. Initially, observation platforms are built for West Berlin's police, later for tourists. This view at Bernauer Strasse shows that the sophisticated containment system in Berlin is far more than a wall. Berlin is a special case. West Berlin, effectively part of the Federal Republic of Germany, is located in the middle of East Germany. The border separating East and West Germany is 1,378 kilometers long.
Wow.
Hertensleben is an East German village. The people here live in immediate proximity to the border fortifications. But most East Germans never get as far as Hertensleben. Sentries stop anyone without a permit about 5 kilometers away from the border. Right on the frontier in Hertensleben itself, the residents are confronted constantly with the threat of forced resettlement to places deeper inside East Germany. In the 1950s and 60s, those deemed to have a high potential to flee had already been resettled as part of what the East German regime called Operation Vermin. Before Germany was divided, this street simply ran a straight course. Now a concrete barrier cuts across it, blocking any view to the west, the first major obstacle of the fortified border. The no man's land here is just 40 meters wide, one of the narrowest points along the frontier between East and West Germany. Just 5 meters behind the wall is a deeply anchored alarm fence. Openings have been left in its foundation for the many rabbits living in no man's land to prevent them from triggering the alarm. Six soldiers stand guard in the watchtowers around the clock. 2 are at the top. The other 4 are posted in quarters below. In some places, guard dogs are added to the patrol of the area. A tripwire serves as a further alarm. When a person runs into it, a yellow flare is triggered. The death strip is lit up brightly at night. Live ammunition is fired at anyone trying to flee. Until 1983, landmines along the inner German border are another lethal danger. Past those, another tripwire. When triggered, it fires a red flare to let the border guards know precisely how far an escape attempt has progressed. Along the patrol route for military vehicles is another area of smoothed, bare soil. Every footprint can be seen clearly. Tank traps block all vehicles here as well. Concrete barriers are put up only in areas believed to be especially vulnerable. Most places along the inner German border are marked by a fence, 3 meters tall. There are gates where the fence meets the wall. The first few meters on the other side of the barriers are part of East Germany. Only the most reliable soldiers patrol there. Just 100 meters away.
Okay, pause it real quick. I'll back it up. It's almost like they thought of everything that could happen, right? So a yellow flare, meaning they're kind of toward the beginning of their escape. And then if they hit the red flare, the guards know, oh, they've made it exactly this far now, so we don't have to worry about searching anywhere else but from that point forward. And to have the wall built in somewhat from the actual border of East and West allowed the East Germans to be able to get outside and inspect the wall instead of building the wall right on the border where, they wouldn't have been able to do that. A lot of thought went into this, a lot of planning went into this, a lot of work went into this, and there were stages into this whole thing, like I mentioned earlier. And I think the book mentioned, where they wanted the wall to be, because they didn't plan on it coming down, obviously. And it was like, they nicknamed it like Wall 2000 or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it was like this high-tech, system of traps and triggers and all of that is where it was intended to go. But obviously it didn't make it that far. But just the amount of thought that went into something to keep people prisoner. It's sad. It's just it's amazing, that somebody actually thought about all this. And then, oh, by the way, if you make it this far, we're just going to shoot you in the back. So good luck.
Just 100 meters away, automatic firing devices shoot at anyone who hits the tripwire. Some 60,000 of these weapons are in use until 1983.
And did you see that? That wasn't like a single bullet shot, because that's not going to hit anybody. It's like a shotgun. It just sprays. So if it's one person, they have a much better chance of hitting them than if it's just a single shot, down the line, because that's not gonna, that takes some luck to be able to hit somebody with just a single round. But this thing fires off like buckshot.
60,000 of these weapons are in use until 1983.
1983, they were still.
Hundreds of people are killed trying to flee East Germany. The communist regime has made prisoners of its people. They are.
Okay, so 100 and something die trying to escape East Berlin. Hundreds die trying to escape East Germany. We're all taught, at least here in the United States, and at least in my school, the Berlin Wall. And that's, I say taught loosely. But there was never any mention or extended conversation about the whole East Germany West Germany thing. We know about it. I know there was that wall separating East and West Germany, but there's really not a whole lot of talk of how many people died trying to escape, what the escape attempts were like, or any of that. And all the images we see in the news were of the Berlin Wall, of it coming down, eventually, and that sort of thing, and not these towns bordering East and West Germany. There's no mention of, what those people went through and what they had to endure, and after the Berlin Wall came down, what happened, out here. I would really like to, at some point, probably when we've moved over there, is to go visit some of these border towns to see, the remnants of the exterior wall between East and West Germany. And if any of you lived in any of these or live in any of these, please let me know in the comments. That's more of what I'm interested in, these unknown things about history, and not necessarily just the big topic items that you see in history books, at least here in the United States.
Germany. The communist regime has made prisoners of its people. They are walled in.
Well, that was extremely interesting video. Short video, not a whole lot of, in-depth discussion about it. Maybe I can find some more videos on this topic and react to those as well. If that's something you'd be interested in watching, please leave a comment and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more. But it's just, it's heartbreaking. It's amazing. It's interesting. There's so many words that can describe that part of history and the inhumane things that went on, again, just to keep people from leaving. I'm so glad that, it's not like that anymore. I know my wife's family had relatives in East Germany when it was still separated, and they would send them food and, care baskets and things like that. Unfortunately, from what my wife said, once the wall came down, they really lost contact. So I think that's a story a lot of people can tell, is, while the wall was up and they were separated, they needed that outside support of, care packages and, whatever. But then once the wall came down, it was almost like, we don't need you anymore. It's sad, but life gets in the way and things like that, but it's family still, and for them not to be in contact with them anymore because they're free, almost it was like they were using them from the beginning, and then, well, we don't need you anymore. I'm sure there's other families like that and other stories like that, but the history, European history in general, and especially in Germany in this time of history, it fascinates me. When we went to Berlin, my wife had never been to Berlin, actually, and she'd obviously never been to East Berlin, and her and her sister, we were walking, we were at Brandenburg Gate, and she asked me, is it all right if my sister and I walk through by ourselves together? And I thought, by all means, this is more your history than it is mine, and I want you to experience whatever you need to experience with that. And so, thinking about it and kind of talking about it now almost chokes me up a little bit, because that was the first time they were able to walk across freely, per se, because my wife was on West Germany side. But just knowing that they had never done that before, it's amazing. It's heartbreaking, like I said. There's so many families that are like that, and the families of those who were killed trying to escape. I know there's so many stories about hot air balloons and tunnels and all sorts of things from people trying to escape the communist regime on the east side. It's just, we need to study this type of thing because it wouldn't take much to get back to that point in history. And the United States is going through a lot of tough things right now. And I feel like we're going backwards in time. We're headed back toward being walled off here in the United States, having that division between two sides, and eventually it'll come to a head. And I don't know what that's going to be, but we really need to pay attention to these historical events so that we don't end up back there again. So even though it was a short one, I did enjoy this one. I hope you did too. Leave a comment down below your thoughts and hit the like button if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to not miss any more of my reaction videos. And always thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next one. Bye.